Hello and welcome back to a very special episode of This Film is Lit. Our theater finally got The Shape of Water, so we finally got to see it about a month after it came out. We thought it warranted a special episode. It's a movie by one of our favorite directors, and it's right up our alley. So we're going to do a little review on it. We'll go spoiler-free as long as possible, probably about 5 or 6 minutes, and then we're going to have to get into spoilers to really talk about some of the things that we really liked about the movie. But let's get right into it. Katie, what did you think of The Shape of Water?
It was exactly what I was expecting and more. Mm-hmm. It was magnificent.
I agree. Like I said last night after we walked out, I went in expecting to love it, and I came out adoring it. Ended up adoring it, so that's good. No, I thought it was amazing. It is, in fact, I think, jump to the top of my list for 2017. I think it's my favorite movie. I think.
It's very reminiscent of one of your favorite movies.
I mean, it's one of my favorite movies of 2017.
Yeah.
Yeah, of one of my favorite movies of 2017? Or just one of my favorite movies? Oh, and I assume you're speaking of, we'll get into it later, but Amelie?
Yeah.
Yeah, my favorite movie. That I described it, I think you can describe it. I couldn't come up with a third movie, but it's Amelie meets Pan's Labyrinth meets, like, Hellboy.
Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah, Creature from the Black Lagoon. Perfect. That's exactly right. And yes, Amelie's one of my favorite, not one of, it is my favorite movie. A lot of similar notes. The music, the score was very reminiscent to me, that sort of whimsical French piano, classical. There was lots of jazz, not lots of jazz, but some jazz, you know, kind of like.
There was a lot of classic, like, 1930s.
Almost like show tunes, but kind of like big bandy type stuff. The Alexandre Desplat, he won the Golden Globe for Best Original Score. He's nominated for an Oscar for Best Original Score. I'm betting he'll win. Because it's really good. I immediately went out, and I'm really sad that it doesn't exist, which is insane to me. I immediately last night looked for the soundtrack on vinyl. And it doesn't exist, at least not yet, which is weird. Nuts to me for a movie like this. Because it's like the soundtrack you would want. It's like the kind of soundtrack you would definitely want on vinyl. I mean, all the shit's played on vinyl in the movie. Like, you know what I mean? It's just
it makes sense.
It's weird to me that I was sure it would be real easy to find. Barnes & Noble, $20, whatever. You know, like, I was sure. Not yet. I'm sure it'll come out, but yeah. So yeah, a lot like Amelie. It is a very definitely a modern day fairy tale, as it were. Elements of Beauty and the Beast, kind of, you know, that sort of relationship, kind of, or at least inspirations of. And I shouldn't wax on about that. That would be your department. But yes, definitely a modern storyteller or fairy tale. And I think the best ways that it encapsulates that, which we'll get into once we get a little more into spoilers, is sort of the many messages throughout. I say many as in plural, not many like small messages that it hits on throughout the course of the movie, including some of the main central themes. Are very relevant to our time right now.
This is a very timely.
It's a very timely fairy tale where instead of telling little girls how to get used to arranged marriages, it's teaching us about relationships and sexuality and all that kind of stuff. So very timely, which I thought was fantastic. I don't think this is a spoiler. It's one of my first points, and I'll see if you agree. I don't want to speak out of turn as the man on this podcast, but to me, it struck me as one of the more, and Amelie is similar, actually, which is funnily enough. There's no way he wasn't vaguely inspired by Amelie.
No way.
I mean, everything Guillermo del Toro does is, like, everything's a remix, but everything Guillermo del Toro does is, like, a super remix of like all of his favorite things rolled and smolded up into one piece. But I thought it was a really interesting, without being in your face about it, portrayal of female sexuality. And I don't think that gets into spoilers really yet. Just like even right off from the top, just her sexuality is just a part of her life. It's something she's into.
Yeah, it's a part of her daily routine.
It's part of her daily routine, and it's something she's very much in touch with and is into. And it's just sort of matter of fact, and it's never seen. None of the characters ever see it as weird. Mm-hmm. No, nobody else ever reacts to it weirdly. It's just like, yeah, it's just, of course, like that's a thing. They're people too. Women are people too, guys. So that was really interesting. And I'm sure there are tons of movies that have really amazing sort of representations of that.
I don't know about tons.
No, not tons. I'm sure there are plenty, and I just haven't seen a lot of them, but is up there maybe the best, one of the better, especially for the type of character she is, because there are movies that do it with sort of your almost manic pixie type characters that are in touch with their sexuality, but it's to benefit, usually not to benefit somebody else, but it's only in relation to somebody else, whereas for her it seems like her sexuality is very much her own thing. It's for her. It's not like when I was talking about like manic pixie, there's a lot of times where like the guy falls in love with the girl who's very in touch with her sexuality, and it's not seen as a bad thing, but we only care in relation to the guy.
No, I know what I mean? You're talking about.
So I thought that was interesting and pretty cool, especially from Guillermo del Toro as a man directing it and writing it. I think it was written by him and a woman. The story was by, I think it was a woman. Maybe not. I don't know. I can't remember now. Because the person who did the novelization of the movie is a man, and it doesn't matter. This isn't spoilery. Richard Jenkins is a delight.
Yes, he is.
He plays her best friend, her neighbor, in the movie. Thought he was fantastic. He is nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
Oh, good.
She's nominated for Best Actress. Octavia Spencer is nominated for Best Supporting Actress. Honestly, I guess they just couldn't nominate because Michael Shannon, I could have seen him being nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
Phenomenal.
Everybody's amazing. The doctor, the scientist is fantastic. I've seen him in something else. I feel like he was in a Marvel movie, playing like a scientist or something. I might be.
He wasn't in the first Captain America.
That's what I was thinking.
Was
I was thinking he might have been in the first Captain America.
Or does he just look like somebody?
Maybe. I don't know. I'll have to look it up.
America.
But I could have swore he was the guy in like one of the like the first Captain America or something. I don't know. But he's amazing. But Richard Jenkins is really interesting character progression and character arc, which we'll talk about. And it's actually one of my only negatives in the film. A little bit with that, which we'll get into with spoilers. But with the whole thing with Kevin Spacey, there were moments with all the nonsense going on with Kevin Spacey, and we're just getting rid of him from everything rightfully. But I was like, dude, everything you were going to cast Kevin Spacey in, just cast Richard Jenkins in, because there was moments where, especially when he was wearing the wig, where he looked and reminded me, like his mannerisms reminded me of Kevin Spacey a little bit. And I was like, he doesn't seem like an asshole. Just let him do all of those. He's fantastic. He's a great actor, and he's not in enough stuff. He's been in plenty of stuff, and he's showing up in more and more these days. But I thought he was fantastic. One more thing before we get into spoilers is the art design or the set design, the production design is just, and every Guillermo del Toro film is gorgeous. It's always shot gorgeous. The design is always gorgeous.
Very rich, very lived in. It looks real.
Yeah, my note was that it so perfectly captures the whimsy of a fairy tale set in a magical olden times, but translates that perfectly into Cold War era, where it still looks that same sort of whimsical, magical, bordering on not real. Like nobody actually has apartments that look like that. Like with the I don't say nobody, but like the artist guy's apartment, her neighbor's apartment with all the bookshelves. It's like so perfectly, meticulously like quaint.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, that it's very few people actually have apartments like that, but it works so perfectly in this sort of over the top fairy tale narrative.
Yeah. It's got that whimsy. And it's almost like realness taken up to 11.
Yeah.
Like, nobody has that cluttered and cozy and quaint of an apartment. There are cluttered, cozy, quaint apartments, but this just, cranks the notch
and
up.
Then dials the saturation way up and back at the same time, where it's way saturated, but it's also, the color palette is always very, distinct for each location to an extent. Like the lab is very blue, greenish. Their apartments are blue, but also kind of have like the warmer oranges and to make them feel a little warmer than the lab. But it's just gorgeous. It is not. I'm pretty sure it's nominated for whatever that's called, art direction, I believe, whatever the Oscar is for that. It's getting nominated for like 15 Oscars or 11 Oscars, which is unsurprising because it was fantastic. So I think it's about time to get into some spoiler discussion. Final feelings before we get there. We did pretty good. Talked about 10 minutes before we hit spoilers. I can't recommend it enough. Like I said, it already jumped to the top of my 2017 list. It overtook Baby Driver for me.
Yeah, I can't recommend it enough either.
Yeah.
I think our theater gave it to us begrudgingly.
Yeah, because one of our friends, Mr. Rodney, was on their Facebook page pestering them constantly. Yeah,
I'm like 99% sure they got it just to shut up Rodney.
Yeah. And so we get it. I just randomly went to our theater's page, and it was like a 4:00 showing and a 9:30 showing. I'm like, well, I don't get off work until 6, so I guess we're going to the 9:30. But it was pretty good turnout for the. Yeah. It was like the second show. Tuesday was the first day it showed in our theater, so this is the only second showing there, and it was half full theater. So hopefully enough people go that it stays for a while. Because I honestly wouldn't be necessarily against. I know there's a lot of stuff coming out, but I wouldn't necessarily be against going to see it again. So A+ for me, A+ movie, 100%. Not 100%. I have a couple nitpicks, but still an A+ movie. So let's get into spoilers and really break this down for a little bit. My one minor nitpick, just to get into that first off before we get anything, is that I felt like, as much as I liked the character progression, character arc of the neighbor, what is his name? Richard Jenkins' character, I can't remember his name. His actual turning point in the middle, or before they steal the Abe Sapien, the creature, it happens in a matter of 5 minutes of screen time where he's like yelling at her, "No, I won't help you," leaves, a thing happens to him, and he comes back and he's like, "Let's do it." And it was just a little like...
Yeah, I almost wonder if there was a scene that got cut.
Or something, or it felt a little like, well, all right, now he's in. Like, just a little like, woo, zip, 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 zip. And now it was a very poignant scene that caused him. Like, it was a very impactful moment that occurred to him when he goes to the diner and is like spurned by the handsome pie guy.
Yeah.
And then the guy's like being an asshole to black people. And so it's a very, impactful moment. It's not like a minor thing. He doesn't just out on a whim change his mind. But I just thought it was like a little like crammed into... If those scenes had just been spread out a little more, it would have felt more natural. Yeah. It just felt a little weird. And some of his dialogue early in the movie felt a little... Actually, there's a fair amount of dialogue in this whole movie that felt a little on the nose to me. But I was able to forgive it because I think it was definitely on purpose. For the story they're telling and for these sort of archetypal... Especially like Michael Shannon, there's some moments where he's so overly bad guy. Yeah. Where it feels like a little silly, but then at the same time I'm like, but yeah, like he's an over the top fairy tale villain. Like he has the cackly "I'm an evil man" lines. Like that's his thing.
Yeah, so he's the evil king. Yeah,
so just for a moment I was like, and then once I let just accept it and like, yeah, that's the point. Like that's what they're going for. Is that it's not an accident that his lines are like, "I'm a man, I'll do what I want, fuck dick, fuck." Like after you get past that, I was like, all right, I get it. I get what they're going for here. But speaking of Richard Jenkins' character arc, I thought one of the things that was really interesting. And one of the timely themes that the movie hits on is, and I think there's a couple ways to read this. I'd be interested to see if you took it the same way I did. Early in the film, Richard Jenkins' character is a gay man. Early in the film, him and Eliza are sitting in his apartment and they have the TV on. And this is again during the 60s. I assume it seems like. And it's like the race riots are going on, I don't know, Detroit or somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's like footage of African Americans being like sprayed by hoses or something. And he goes, turn that off. I don't. And now you could take it as he doesn't want to. It's just a bummer. But at the same time, to me, it felt a little like he said, like the way he said it was like, turn that off. It felt a little dismissive and like sort of not. He sort of like was hiding and uninterested in this other injustice going on, despite the fact that he's a gay man in the 60s.
Yeah, I think you can definitely read it that way.
And that's how I took it. And then because the reason that worked for me was that, and then ultimately the thing that that changes him and that pushes him on the path of helping Eliza is that scene in the pie shop where he sort of sees in the moment where the pie owner not only spurns his advances and is like, get the fuck out of here, and, you know, you're not welcome. Yeah. Like, this is a family establishment. And then immediately goes and, like, tells the black people they can't sit at the counter.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I think it kind of in him, at that moment, he sees that it was wrong of him to distinguish between their injustice and to be uninterested in that injustice because it doesn't affect him. Mm-hmm. But then as soon as and now you could say it's almost kind of selfish, which maybe, but as soon as he sees it reflected and affecting him in the same person, he's much more sympathetic suddenly to that plight and the plight of other people.
I didn't read it as him being like uninterested or unsympathetic. I read it more as like he was in a bubble of safety.
Yeah,
and he liked the bubble of safety.
Same things. Yeah, or sorry, not same thing, but that's kind of the idea I was going for. Yeah. Where it's easier to just be ignorant to it.
Right.
Than it is to acknowledge it. And I think that's a very, like I said, a very timely
definitely.
Message. And so I thought that was interesting, and to have that sort of realization happen to an already marginalized minority, I thought was kind of cool. Another thing I really liked that I wanted to talk about, and it's, again, we're kind of touching on all the themes here, and they're spoilery-ish, is obviously this main movie, the main thing of the movie hinges around a relationship between a human woman, and some sort of amphibious...
a frog lizard man
amphibious man, Abe Sapien from Hellboy, and... It's very. I thought what was really interesting about it is that it challenges your perceptions, obviously, of what relationships can be, what sexuality is, as sort of amorphous thing. But it's easy to do that with people who are easily or who have a very narrow definition of those things: man, woman. Man is with woman, woman is with man, that's it. Mm-hmm. That's very easy to challenge that. It's fairly easy to challenge somebody with that opinion. But to be able to do that to people who are more #woke, we're both very accepting of multiple different gender expressions and different types of relationships and sexuality and that sort of stuff. But even still, seeing a woman with a fish man is arresting. It's
jarring at first.
It's jarring at first, and I thought that was a really interesting experience to have in watching the movie, and to feel that in myself, and then to challenge in my own head why I was feeling that way, and then try to figure out whether or not I thought that was the right, okay to feel that way. And ultimately, if you're not an asshole, you decide no, but or that it's not okay that your reservations are ill-placed or not, and I think that's a really clever vehicle for that sort of storytelling, and a really interesting way to do that. And I think it's interesting and fun because I say fun. Like I said, it challenges people like us.
Yeah.
To kind of think about how they think about that stuff. Whereas if you just showed me, if it was just her and she was saving a girl or whatever, and they were together.
Yeah.
That's not challenging to us. Sure, it might be challenging to Joe Blow down the street, but like to me, I'm like, yeah, it's fine. Cool. But then to take that a step further and make even people down with that go, okay, well, so the only things that matter are, consent, the ability to consent.
Yeah.
And, and the ability to consent requires, some sort of higher cognitive functioning level of, without getting into a crazy discussion about, what it means to be able to consent. It was very obvious in the movie that the they haven't even call it anything. I don't even have a name. That Abe Sapien is absolutely reciprocal in the feelings and is able to understand their relationship. And it's not,
Right. It's not like he's like an animal and it's like a weird bestiality thing.
Right. That's what was interesting to me, is that you do initially get that feeling of this weird, that weird initial like bestiality type of off-puttingness. But the longer it goes on and the more you see their relationship, the more it doesn't feel that way. And another thing I think is interesting is that it's also, so not only did I say does it challenge people like us who are totally, cool, whatever, it's also kind of an interesting way to challenge people who have that narrow view without them realizing it, maybe. Yeah. Whereas whereas when it's not something so overtly, now it's a little different, but if it's not so overtly like a man and a man, or a woman and a woman, or a non-binary person and a transgender person, whatever, that when it's not something that they experience in the real world or see in the real world or see on Twitter or whatever that makes them really angry, that maybe their defenses don't go up quite as quickly, and then they can go on that same journey that we go on with this. Maybe I'm hoping, maybe, and maybe not. I don't know. Maybe they're even just in, they don't go that extra layer like we do of understanding the ideas of consent. And if there's anything that fucking those people don't understand, it's like ideas of consent and stuff. So I'm not holding out a lot of hope, but I'm just saying, then maybe, maybe putting it in that sort of alien bend on it, kind of keeps that crowd from having their initial defenses go up. I don't know. Maybe. Probably not. I would guess not.
Fingers crossed.
Because I would guess not, mainly because if we feel that sort of initial like unease, there's no way everybody does. That Joe Blow down the street who thinks man is man, woman is woman, and only man, that sort of thing. There's no way that person doesn't feel the same thing tenfold. I would think. I don't know, but who knows? And then I would just wonder if they would be able to work past it. Probably not, but maybe they could. Maybe the movie does a good enough job that would allow them to work past it and maybe reanalyze how they feel about it. I'm, again, pipe dreams here. Trying to give Guillermo del Toro a lot of credit. But so, yeah, I thought that was really interesting, just challenging what is gender, what is identity, what are relationships, what is sexuality in such a sort of fun way. It was cool. I really enjoyed that.
Fun and unexpected.
Yeah. I really wasn't expecting that to be sort of I guess I don't know. I only saw like one trailer and I was like, I'm in. I don't need to see anything else. So I wasn't really didn't really know what to expect in terms of where the story was going to go.
I was avoiding trailers after that first one because I didn't want it spoiled. But I wasn't expecting the portrayal and discussion of sexuality that was in this movie.
Not at all.
I'm glad for it.
Yeah, me too.
But I wasn't expecting it.
I really wasn't. It really took me off guard initially when she first gets in the tub in the morning and starts rubbing one out. I was like, oh, all right, well, didn't know that's what I didn't realize it was that kind of movie. But no, it was really, it was unexpected, but very welcome. It was cool. Another thing I want to talk about, which is I think a rare thing, and if you please chime in when I feel like I'm commandeering this conversation. I did have a lot of notes, and so I'm kind of going off notes, and you're just chiming in.
No, I know, and I've been sick, and my throat's a little scratchy.
Okay, well,
so.
I don't want people to feel mad at me that I'm owning this conversation. I just have a lot of things to say. Another thing that I thought was really interesting and really enjoyed, and Guillermo del Toro's pretty good about this in all of his stuff. In a movie like this, it's very easy for the scientists to be the bad guys.
Totally.
I'm a big science nerd, big fan of science. I think it's amazing. It blows my mind all the time, and I think a lot of people have a mistrust for science that's deeply misplaced because they don't understand what air quotes science is. And so I really enjoyed a movie where the two things that were the good things in the movie, obviously Eliza and her relationship with him and their human connection, the love between them, obviously was like one of the good things. That was the easy stuff. Like, that's the movie was going to tell you this is a good thing. But it's very easy for that on the flip side to go, and these scientists, these evil scientists, just want to be. Yeah, they just want to cut it up.
Cold and personal.
They don't care. Yeah.
Evil scientists.
Oh, I loved so much that was not the case. The scientist was the other good guy.
Yeah, no, he totally was.
He was a fucking Russian, but he was a good guy. And I really love that marriage of the idea that it's science and love that are good. It's military, it's power, it's greed, it's men. But there's lots of good men in the movie too. So I mean, like her friend, the scientist.
It's not men. It's the patriarchy.
It's toxic masculinity.
To coin a phrase,
it's military, it's power, it's greed. All of this sort of toxic masculine traits.
And I kind of liked that he was a Russian.
Yeah, I did too. I agree.
Because I felt like we avoided that other obvious dichotomy of America good, Russia bad.
Yes, I was joking when I said he was a Russian. I actually love that. I think that was not had to, but that the fact that he was a Russian just added to the idea that it was. And he voiced it so beautifully in the movie when they're going to vivisect the thing or whatever, because they want to figure out how it breathes so that they can use it somehow to make space suits or whatever. Yeah. Which I don't know. Minor gripe. I'm not sure that really makes any sense, but sure. Which is probably the point. But I love he goes in there and the guy's like, look, and Michael Shannon's like, hey, you lost. Are you here to like? Are you here because you're mad that you lost or whatever? He goes, no, I'm here because I want to stop. I can't remember how he says it, but he goes, because I want to stop this creature that, like this amazing creature from being destroyed because I want to learn about it. Like, he's like, I just want to learn about it. He's just so desperately on the side of learning. And it's just really refreshing to see a movie where science ends up being on the side of knowledge and truth and love and not on the side of like the evil people. It was just like, I was just, like I said, as somebody who loves science, reads lots of science books, was going to be a chemist, has a great respect for science, and that sounds really pretentious, but it was very refreshing, I'll just say, because it's always in movies, it's always, scientists are always on the bad guy's side. They don't give a shit.
It's easy.
It's easy. And I thought this was not, it was a fun and smart way to go in the current climate. The thing we don't need is people not liking scientists. Yeah. So another A+ point there, Del Toro. That was most of my stuff. The big things that stuck out to me that really affected me watching the movie, apart from just having like a smile on my face the whole time. Just so many times where it was just like, this is delightful. I love this. This is so nice. I liked the ending. Talk about the ending a little bit. The ending was one of those ones where it's like, how, you could go a couple ways, and I
was genuinely concerned at the end.
Were you?
Because I've seen Guillermo del Toro movies.
Oh, they're not always so happy.
Yeah, they're not always so. I was genuinely concerned.
And I don't think there's even
like, what's going to happen.
Yeah, so if you're listening to this, you've probably seen the movie. I would hope so. Otherwise, we didn't do a lot of spoilers, mainly discussing themes. But so they end up getting it out, and they're returning it to the sea. And as they're getting into the sea, Michael Shannon shows up and shoots both of them a handful of times. Now, we know the sea creature has healing abilities. We've seen him heal.
I mean, we don't know the extent of it.
No, but he takes like 2 bullets in the chest, kind of.
Yeah.
And then she gets shot in the stomach. Yeah. Eliza gets shot in the stomach. And so we're kind of like, and then he takes her into the water. And I don't think this is even supposed to be ambiguous. Like, maybe this isn't what happened. I think it's pretty fair to say that this is just supposed to be, that what actually happened is that she just becomes a fucking mermaid.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that's supposed to be like, a dream, or not like a dream, but sometimes, because like even like Pan's Labyrinth, the ending's a little ambiguous.
Pan's Labyrinth is super ambiguous.
It's super ambiguous. It's pretty dark.
Yeah.
But this one I don't think is supposed to be played quite
I don't
similar
think so.
way, where it's not supposed to be ambiguous. I think it's supposed to be, that's what happened.
Yeah, and I think it plays out the way that they show it.
Yeah, which was nice. Because I was very much, like you said, seen a few Del Toro movies. Doesn't always go so great. But so, yeah, they live happily ever after as sea creatures.
Yeah.
Which is nice. And that shot, I need that poster so bad. That final, 10, 15 seconds before it fades to black, that wide shot with the silhouettes in the middle. I mean, it's every poster is every, I'm sure, but I want the wide frame poster, no text, no movie name, just that. Ugh, I need it. You know what's funny though? As much as I really enjoyed it, I never got close to tears at any point.
I welled up a little bit.
I didn't.
Around the end.
Yeah, I didn't. I felt a lot of, I felt it, but it didn't hit me I don't know, something about it didn't grab at my throat and make me go, oh God. I don't know. But
I was also very concerned.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I want to talk about the fairy tale aspect real quick.
Yeah, fine. Yeah.
So, Pan's Labyrinth is a fairy tale. This is a little different. It's kind of a different take. Pan's Labyrinth is dark, but this is more adult.
Yeah, this isn't particularly dark. I mean, there's some dark moments. Yeah. But not like Pan's Labyrinth.
But this Shape of Water is a grown-up story about grown-up things.
Absolutely.
And fairy tales, at their core, they're about transformation, right? You transform by the end of the story. And I liked the way that came through in some of the characters, and the main characters, where you have Eliza, who starts out, she's not unhappy.
No,
she's perfectly content.
Yeah.
But she's in her routine.
She's in her routine, and she's very lonely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's in her routine, and she's not really breaking out of it, and it's not that she's discontent with it.
Yeah.
But you don't really get the feeling that there's going to be anything more for her on the horizon.
Yeah.
But throughout the story, she changes.
Yeah.
Right? She breaks out of that routine. Yeah. Richard Jenkins' character, we talked about his I cannot remember at all what his name was. And then another interesting...
Marty? No. I don't know why. Sorry. I'm sorry.
Another interesting transformation to me actually was the bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
I mean, he doesn't... It's not a change for the better. He gets worse as it goes on. But I liked how it was kind of, I guess, symbolized is the right word, through his rotting fingers.
Oh, yeah.
Nasty.
Yeah. Symbolized it showed his own internal decay.
Yeah.
Towards his single mind, towards the goal at hand and winning.
Yeah.
And he says so many times, he's like, I don't lose, I don't, I don't fail or whatever. Like he's so dead set on succeeding and achieving his ends that it
right. No, and I thought it was really clever because he transforms and yet he doesn't. He's still the same character.
Yeah, he's still the exact same character, but he becomes a more deranged primal version of himself.
And when things don't transform in a fairy tale, they lose. Yeah. They get left behind.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't become more, he becomes less. He becomes, like I said, he's stripped away, literally piece by piece, finger by finger, down to his sort of core, primal, toxic masculinity, the theme of the last couple episodes. Sort of self, that sort of primal, just rage machine that he is, pumped up on pain pills.
Painkillers and weird 1960s candy.
I want to find that. I want to know what that is.
I know. I was trying to figure out. Every time he had the box
big
out,
and green.
I was like, what is it? Can I figure out what it is?
I'm wondering if it's not like a lime, similar like a lemon head, but like limes. It almost looked like lime wedges or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't recognize it. And I like candy.
Yeah. Giles is her neighbor's name.
Oh.
Yeah. Funnily enough, it's Giles. The big Buffy fans that we didn't remember that for some reason. Yeah, he was great, and like you said, it lots of transformation, literally by the end of the movie. Mm-hmm. I also thought it was a little convenient that for some reason when they cut out her voice box, they used 3 horizontal incisions instead of just 1 vertical incision. But little things.
I also really like that there's a mainstream, really popular movie that's getting a lot of award buzz that features sign language. Yeah,
that was really cool.
Yeah.
That was the other thing I wanted to talk about. I almost said Zelda, which is Octavia Spencer's character. Eliza's character. Not only is it the representation of female sexuality in this movie, not only is it cool just for a woman in general in a movie, in a mainstream movie like this, but specifically for a character like her, which I think I touched on a little bit, but somebody who, she only speaks in sign language. She's mute. She hasn't had a vocal box since she was, and she sees herself as incomplete. She says it in the movie.
Yeah.
And that's part of her transformation, is realizing that she's not. And I like that she doesn't somehow magically, I'm really glad that they didn't
have her get her voice
that he didn't heal her and give her voice back, which would have been like, oh, come on now. Which, of course, Del Toro wouldn't do that. It's
right.
But she feels so incomplete. But for a character that literally does not have a voice and that we see as very regimented and put together, to still be so connected to her sexuality,
yes, is,
I guess, what I'm trying to get at. I thought was different and refreshing, I guess, is the idea of
it was cool to me not to just have a positive portrayal of female sexuality and female masturbation, both of which are pretty fucking
super fucking rare,
especially in mainstream cinema.
Oh yeah.
But to have that, and to have her be someone who is differently abled,
I agree.
Which it's a group of people that are often portrayed as sexless.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I was getting at. Yes. That's the idea that I was trying to convey and not doing well. Yes. Yes. Thank you. Last thing, we'll touch on it just in case anybody has heard rumor. I heard somebody talking about it at work today. Ethan mentioned it. Apparently there's a short film that came out in 2015 that is damn near identical to this.
Really?
Yes. And it is very strikingly similar. I watched it today, but Del Toro had been working on this film since 2011. He has it's come up, it's been discussed. This movie was not ripped off from that short film from 2015. Del Toro's had this idea for 10 years or something like that.
I would say that's not enough time to do.
No, and it's also not enough time.
And
no, it's not. And it's a similar-ish visual style, but this movie is it's so quintessentially Del Toro, and has been his style for so long that even though that movie I think I would almost be more inclined to think that movie had this story idea is not original. It's been done a bunch of times. Even this very similar story idea of a woman falling in love with a fish creature. There's several books that are very similar to this from back in the day. There was episodes of TV shows that have similar premises. This isn't again, nothing Del Toro does really is that much.
No, and I mean the idea of being in love with a sea creature or marrying a sea creature, we can take that back to mythology. Right. We can take that back to Selkies and mermaids and
But this particular, I understand why people, when this was pointed out, because when you watch it, it's a lab. She's a cleaner. She finds a fish man in a tube that looks very much a lot like this thing, and then breaks it out in a push cart, and then jumps into the ocean, and then they lived happily ever after. It's beat for beat, very similar. But yeah, they've been working on this long before.
Yeah.
And again, the visual style, like the similarities in that regard is like, this is just Del Toro style. Like he's not cribbing this from anybody. I mean, he's cribbing it from everybody, but he's making it very much his own. And that's,
well, that's how creativity works.
Yeah. And again, Del Toro maybe more than most, but he does it his own way. Very much puts his own spin on things. So I don't want to go too harsh on it, but he's a big fan of things.
Yeah.
Likes lots of things, and he likes to make those things into his own movies. But I think he always does it in a unique way. So anyways, if anybody had heard of that, or I just wanted to touch on it briefly. The movie's called Between Us, somewhere between us. I can't remember. It's, if you look up The Shape of Water short film 2015, you'll find it. Okay. It's on YouTube.
I had not heard this.
Yeah, I hadn't either. Like I said, a friend at work today mentioned it, and I was like, oh, I'll check that out. I looked into it, and it's been, I say debunked. It's not been debunked, but it's been explained that it's not, he didn't steal this idea from that short film. So anyways, that's it. That's our thoughts on The Shape of Water. Holy cow, we talked about that for a long time, but I think it was a pretty interesting discussion. I think there's a lot of stuff to talk about with that movie. This we've said this before half dozen times, but this might have to end up being our first video list. I feel like we could have a lot to write about on this one. Maybe. We'll, if we ever get around to doing that. But I think I think there's a lot we could talk about with this one.
Definitely.
And I think we're sort of rightly positioned to actually have something to say about it. So anyways, look out for that, never. Until next time, guys, though, keep watching movies, keep reading books, especially go see The Shape of Water if it's still in the theater near you. If you haven't seen it, it's beautiful. You will not regret it. It's gorgeous, lovely, heartfelt piece of filmmaking.